Good afternoon, Oneberg Nation on Facebook and YouTube and all of our streaming networks. It is the Steelers postgame show as the Steelers defeat the Cincinnati Bengals this afternoon 16-10 to improve to 7-4 on the season and keep in the race for the AFC North Division Championship and a playoff berth in 2023. Well, all the talk this past week about Matt Canada being fired. Would it result in a better offense? Would it result in a better Kenny Pickett, a better running game, a better receiving game? Answers to all those questions here in the next 30 minutes. And most of those answers should be yes, as the Steelers get it done today on the road at Paycor Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio. Joining me now is my main man, Brian Carruthers. And Brian, what an afternoon for the black and gold, especially the offense. Talk about night and day. I don't know about you, but I was pleasantly surprised by the results.
Are you serious? Every answer now is answered now that Matt Canada's gone. So Pickett is good. The line is good. Deontay Johnson is a hustler. Pickens. So everything was answered. There's no problems now.
I wouldn't say everything was answered, but it's a world of a difference better. And there's some good signs. Signs of life.
We beat the Bengals by one touchdown.
Signs of
a 40-yard pass to Pickens, and everything is solved?
There were some mistakes made, that's for sure. Absolutely. In fact, they should have scored in the 30s today with putting up over 400 yards of offense. But I just feel for Steeler Nation, it was a huge relief, something that we have not seen since the second week of 2020, and that's getting over 400 yards in a game. Najee Harris, 99 yards rushing.
But I hate to interrupt, but what matters then? So we win by a touchdown, barely. And so as long as we got over 400 yards passing or yards of offense, we're winners. We're the same team that's on the tightrope every week. Whether it was Matt Canada or my son as our offensive coordinator, we're still the same team that we don't know what we're going to do week in and week out.
So obviously you disagree.
I can't believe that you said that all the answers are now, everything is answered. That Canada's got. So Pickett threw a pass to Pickens for 40 yards, and on the first drive, we threw one for 25 yards, and we still didn't score. Canada's the answer. We did it. We finally got rid of this monster, and we're here. We're going to win the Super Bowl.
I don't say that. I'm just saying for the first time in 2.5 seasons, there were signs of life on this offense. They started throwing the ball down the middle of the field. They were moving the football. Yes, there were mistakes made throughout that only resulted in 16 offensive points. I get that, but they should have scored in the 30s today. Some costly penalties.
We should have scored in the 30s when we had Canada.
Oh, man, I disagree. I felt like it was a completely different offense today. Rushing the ball, throwing the ball. Pat Freiermuth, 9 catches, 120 yards. They actually used their tight ends today. Darnell Washington got in on the action. Okay. I just felt, and Najee Harris, he ran with a purpose today. Offensive line blocked better. I'm very encouraged by what I saw on offense today. Are they going to win the Super Bowl? No. But are they on the path to the playoffs, especially with this win today? Absolutely.
The only difference is we threw 5 passes to our tight ends, and Pickett still threw passes over people's heads. He has that record that they showed of the pass attempts. The only reason he has that is his passes are so bad they don't go to anybody. And we were winning 10-7 at halftime. Same thing we did about Cleveland. It's just this week we won. Last week we didn't. We should have kept Matt Canada and let Pickett develop. But, dude, for you to say that everything is answered and we're on the right path, it's so ridiculous. It's the funniest thing I've ever heard. It's ridiculous.
So you think that the Steelers' offense today was worse?
It was non-existent, and it was non-existent, and we won. But
they put up 400 yards for the first time since the second week of 2020. How could you say that their offense is not better this week than it's been the previous 2.5 years under Canada? I don't know, man. I disagree with you. That's okay. We're allowed to disagree.
But what did we get out of it? We barely beat the Bengals. Last week, we barely lost to the Browns. This is just where we are. I'm just commenting that your comment of that everything has been answered. We're off. What do you think happened? We weren't motivated as professionals last week because Canada was there, but now we are. We're a high school team. We're Stowe Rocks Vikings. We got rid of the person we didn't like. The band director's gone, and so now we're going to play like we're millionaires. But now we're going to play. I just disagree 100%. We threw to tight ends. That's what we did differently today.
There you go, Mr. Negative. Barry agrees with me. Barry Goldberg comments on her.
Well, who's Barry Goldberg? Who gives a crap about Barry Goldberg? He overate on Thursday and he barely woke up on Friday. So now he is the judge and jury of this show.
Let me retract for a second.
Okay.
My opening statement. I do not think all of their problems have been answered. However, if you watch that game today and you've watched the last 2.5 years under this offense under Matt Canada, it just felt different to me. They felt like they were attacking more, throwing the ball down the middle of the field. The running game was going. It just, to me, and again, maybe I'm just looking at it from a different perspective. As far as maybe I have my lenses on, my Steeler Yenzers on. Let's call them Yenzers, not lenses, yeah. Yenzers. I just felt like the offense just moved the ball better today. And I was surprised because I was on the fence last week on this very show talking about that I thought it was more Kenny Pickett than Matt Canada. And when they released Matt Canada this past week, I don't want to say it was a mistake, but I thought it was more of it should have been a bench of Kenny Pickett, and I was wrong. At least I feel like I'm wrong today.
Okay, man, you're everywhere. I don't know what to say to that. So last week, you're making my point. There is no rhyme or reason to what our success is. Just something happened today, so we changed the opinion that because we won and Canada's gone, we're there. I don't necessarily see it. And remember, I haven't been very negative about the Steelers to begin with. I'm just saying that there is no difference in this team. And if we think that, Warren fumbled today, do you think he did that because he was? I mean, if everything has to do with like we're a new team, new men, new everything, he fumbled today. Do you think that was because he was trying to send a message that he was pro-Canada? Why do you think he fumbled today? Because he liked Canada, so he wasn't as motivated to catch it as much as the tight ends were today? I just don't understand.
Well, let's bring in our guest and see what he thinks about it. Maybe he agrees with you. Maybe he agrees with me. I'm not sure. But joining us on the broadcast here this afternoon is Bill Powerhouse Hughes. And Bill, I'm going to take down your name just because it's too long. Powerhouse takes up too much room there on the screen. So now we can see your face. And Bill, what did you think about the Steelers' performance this afternoon?
Hey, guys, thanks for having me. Hey, first and foremost, while you were getting started there, I was watching the end of the Jaguars and Texans, and Texans hit the crossbar on a 58-yard field goal at the end. So that playoff positioning, it helps the Steelers out a little bit. But I thought he had it, but it hit the crossbar. As far as today, it was a much-needed win. I do think that the offense clicked and looked different. At the same time, fortunately, the defense played lights out again because, again, scoring, they're going to have to score more moving forward here. And the schedule is relatively easy coming up the rest of the way of the regular season. But, we'll see. It did look different, though, offensively today.
Am I the only one missing it? So Ed won't put up these other comments, even though I'm Mr. Negative. So John Fab says, we have significantly addressed our offensive issues. How? Bill, you're a football guy. How in so we fire Canada on Tuesday. Thanksgiving is on Thursday. And so here we are on Sunday. How did we significantly address our offensive issues? This seems like the same game that we played all season long. Just like you said, our defense has to play lights out, and we stumble and fumble. And the only difference is we threw the ball to a couple tight ends. But other than that, man, I don't see a difference.
Yeah, I think I feel Pickett did try to go downfield a little bit more today, more than he might have been, in recent games. So in that sense, that's what I mean by it was opened up. It is relatively close to being the same offense, but hey, they made the plays they had to make.
I think definitely. One thing, of course, anybody that follows football knows at this point in the season, their offensive strategy was not going to change. You can't install a new offense at this point of the season, so they have to work with what they installed during the offseason and during the preseason. But I think just the flow of the game, the play calls, we saw less of the wide receiver screens. We saw more attacking down the middle of the football field, more to our tight ends. He took some shots with Deontay Johnson, took some shots with George Pickens downfield. I don't know. Maybe it's just more of these guys see a new play caller. They have a new strategy. They're going to go out and start playing a little bit differently. That could be part of it too. I just felt like it just felt different today. The offense did. Results speak for themselves. I think, Brian, you bring up some good points, though. I mean, absolutely. I mean, they still only scored 16 points today. It was still a nail biter towards the end of the game. As Bill said, the defense still had to make some key stops late to reserve the victory. But I don't know. Like I said, on the offensive side of the ball, over 400 yards, first time since 2020 that's been achieved for this team, one of the longest streaks in all of the NFL, and it's 1 week removed from Matt Canada.
Did I miss the point that did we win 35-3 and I missed it? Was I watching a different game? Like we squeaked it out of Cincinnati and we won. Again, the debate is not that did we make some progress. I guess we did. Offensively, we looked better as far as on numbers, but this was the same game. This didn't stand out where you'd be like, oh, here was the significant difference where we beat Cincinnati 42-10 and we really unleashed. Hell, I don't know. Seems like the same team to me, man. All right, was that the only answer in it? Canada could have kept his job by telling Pickett, look, save my job and your job. Throw a couple passes to Johnson, 40 yards over his head. Get Pickens almost killed on a 40-yard pass that he missed, but he tried to get and he got shook up on. I'm happy we won. Don't get me wrong. I just don't. I guess I just don't really see what the big difference was today. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say just a couple numbers for Kenny Pickett: 24 of 33, 278 yards, no touchdowns, but no interceptions either. He now breaks a streak that Ben Roethlisberger had set.
Wait, how many touchdowns was there?
0.
Oh, 0. The Canada, that bastard.
No touchdowns. And Brian, I'm going to change your name to Brian Canada here.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying I don't see it. I just don't see. The same thing came out. We couldn't get in the end zone this week, and we couldn't get in for the first X amount of weeks either. It's what do you think, Bill? Do you think that something like this was time for Pickett to shine now? And do you feel like he's under the microscope even heavier now that we made the Canada move?
Yeah, I definitely think he is under the microscope, but getting rid of Canada now, gives him the rest of this year, and then we'll see about moving forward. You still have people that say that he wasn't the right draft pick. You're going to have people that are going to say that, they try to make up for the quote unquote Pitt mistake. I'm not taking Marino way back in the day. I do think that, slight tweaks moving forward every week here on out will give Pickett that opportunity to show more. And, what I did like, and Ed, you talked about those stats. If I can, let me click over here real quick. The 278 yards passing on the 24 completions, that's well over 10 yards of completion. And, I don't follow the stats as close as Ed. I know you follow them really close. I don't know how often Pickett has done that. Had well over 10 yards per completion on average.
I'd have to dig in, Bill, to see on that. I think it's been a while. Pat Freiermuth, 9 catches, 120 yards. George Pickens, 3 catches, 58 yards today. But it was really Pat Freiermuth that I think was the biggest difference today on offense, especially down the middle of the football field, especially on third down. They were actually able to move the football and convert in key third down situations, and Pat Freiermuth had a lot to do with that. Hey, let's bring on our fourth member of the broadcast here this afternoon. Joining us, Pittsburgh Steely. We're going to bring him in and get his thoughts on this afternoon. There he is in your bottom right-hand corner. How are you, man?
Good, boys. How are you?
We're doing well. So we have a little bit of a disagreement here on the show. Maybe you can jump on and give us your feedback here. Yeah. I come on the broadcast and pretty much say, I don't want to say it's over, but I said, man, this offense completely night and day compared to the last 2.5 years. It just felt different, but yet they only yield 16 points. They still have to pull out a squeaker in Cincinnati at the end. And Brian disagreed with me on that and says it wasn't so much the change of Canada. What do you think?
I'm somewhere in the middle. So I like to see we won over the middle of the field. We got Freiermuth finally involved. He probably had as many catches today as he had all season. But also, where are the points? Yes, we lost one down in the red zone with the fumble. I think that first Deontay catch was a touchdown, but it wasn't challenged. So we got yardage, but we're still playing the same game.
That's one of the strangest things. Why didn't we challenge that? Was there any word on why we couldn't, or did we choose not to?
Chose not to. And,
wow.
and again, that goes back to what a lot of people have said over the years about Tomlin not having a bug in his ear on these challengeable situations and not challenging that play. Clearly, he had 2 feet down. He was out of bounds. Even my 9-year-old son was saying, "Dad, that's a touchdown." He's out of bounds when the ball came out.
Yeah,
Steely, what do you think?
Well, is this going to tame the frustration in the locker room? Everybody's saying we're tired of the same old, same old. Yeah, we got 400 yards, but we won the same way. So is everything going to settle down now?
Well,
go ahead, Ryan.
I think the one thing to think about is it's the same old story, and we did show some improvement. I see that Jay just put up this is the first 400-yard game in 59 games. That's absolutely amazing. But this is the same old story, and it's okay as we develop. Our defense has to play Pro Bowl quality. We have to be a Pro Bowl quality unit plus. So if we don't have a week that's not Pro Bowl plus, we lose. Watt came in. We looked good. Had a couple turnovers. We missed a couple turnovers that we could have maybe easily ended the game. But really the name of this team is our defense, which I don't think wins in 2023, 2024 and NFL. But we're asking them to do out of this world, have an out of this world performance every single week. And that's how we decide if we win or lose.
Gentlemen, some other stats just to talk about as well. TJ Watt, 2 sacks today. Watt and Highsmith a little quiet the last few weeks. Wasn't so much of an impact, putting a lot of pressure in the Green Bay game here at home, especially last week at Cleveland. I thought that changed today. I thought their defense really got after Browning, their quarterback, making his first career start. And I think that pressure ultimately won them the game, especially late. But TJ Watt, again, just continues to be magical from that outside. We could talk about that every week here on the show, but there's other guys stepping out now too. Alandron Roberts being a big one in that middle linebacker position. Really had another big day. Bill, you want to talk a little bit about the Steelers defense and some guys like Roberts and some of those other guys stepping in? One other name to note was on the big interception today as well for the Steelers with Thompson, Trenton Thompson, who's a name you never heard of before, but he's been making an impact the last couple of weeks, filling in for Mika Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, the thing that stood out to me, and I really liked it, and it made me smile, and I'm looking back at the stats here, make sure I have the name right. When Nick Herbig, am I saying it right? When he had his sack, how happy Watt was right behind him. Like you saw that on the replay, and it just shows that, Watt does a lot, Hayward does a lot. And speaking of, they were in on that one together. So it's kind of like, how many more times are we going to see that? But, there are other guys stepping up, starting to make plays. And, when you have great players around you, it rubs off on you. The work ethic, whether in practice, it's, hopefully there's some diamonds in the rough coming through. They're going to start shining. What
about Big Bad Boswell, right? So we all know that I think his wife is cute, so we don't have to get into that just yet. That's more for like later in the show. But, there's that famous clip that's going around when Matt Canada's coming in the locker room. I don't remember what game it was, and he's celebrating. And Boswell comes around the corner and yells, "Nothing that you did." He could very well repeat itself today, no matter who was celebrating going into the locker room. Again, Boswell cleared us out, and our defense cleared us out. And other than that, we still have a ton of problems, or at least issues that we need to figure out.
Yeah, by no means not a perfect win today, but none of them have been so far this year either for the Steelers. It's been their style. And really up until last week, it was, play a close game, get a key interception or a key fumble recovery late, and then you somehow pull it out right at the end. That did not happen in Cleveland. They had an opportunity at the end, and they just simply didn't pull that lever in order to get that victory at Cleveland. But this week, yeah, right. It's very similar path to victory, right? They played a close game with Cincy, a team that they probably should have blew out. We talked about it at the beginning of the broadcast. They should have scored in the 30s today, but some mistakes prevented them to only get to 16 points. But all in all, win's a win. They're 7-4. We'll talk about the standings and where they sit here in a little bit in the remaining schedule. But again, they get to 7-4, and now you got 2 teams at home that you absolutely should win to get to 9-4 on the season.
And don't get me wrong,
in New England.
That is the only stat that matters. So we can beat it up and figure it all out, but it's a team effort, right? So we're getting enough done. We're going to make the playoffs. Amazingly, we may go far in the playoffs. Who knows? So don't get me wrong. I don't want to be coined as Mr. Negative. I just want to be Mr. Realistic, but I still think we're going to make the playoffs. How could here we go, famous last words. How could we not? When they show who the remaining teams are and the quarterbacks that run those teams, we might as well play McKeesport. We're winning. We're winning these games.
By the way, good shout out earlier on here with the comments to McKeesport High, even though they didn't beat Aliquippa. Then again, not many teams beat Aliquippa, but McKeesport making it all the way to the Class 4A championship game at AccuShore this past Saturday. Hey, Batman of PA, he's been chiming in. Joey Porter Jr. did a great job today. Let's talk a little bit about Joey Porter Jr. And Bill, I know you're a Penn State guy, so I'll let you jump in here and talk about your guy, Joey Porter Jr. But he went one-on-one today with Jamar Chase. And as I waste a few seconds of time to get to the stats, he held Chase under 100 yards, 4 catches, 81 yards, but the most important stat there, no touchdowns.
Yeah, he's another one that's growing, week by week, and he was really aggressive. And I remember one time they showed the replay, and they let him get away with some stuff downfield. But if they're consistent across the board with everybody, I mean, I watched him play. Having Penn State season tickets, I saw all his home games, a lot of the road games, and every year you saw the growth. And the knock against him was always the hands. I think he only had 1 or 2 interceptions in college, but the passion is there. He wants to get better, and his future is going to be very bright.
Pittsburgh Steely, your thoughts on Joey Porter Jr. today?
Yeah, I thought he did really well. And you got to remember the one catch that he took for 25 or 30 yards was off of that tip. Yeah, that has nothing to do with Joey Porter Jr. So.
Absolutely. And Porter's been one of those guys the last few weeks that he has asked the coaching staff, hey, I want to go up against the best receiver one-on-one, much like what Ike Taylor used to do in his prime with the Steelers. He always got the top receiver on the other side. And again, today, the Steelers defense as well, shutting down the running game. How about these stats? Joe Mixon, who has burned the Steelers a lot in the past with a strong running game, held to 8 carries for 16 yards today. That was it. In fact, as a team, Cincinnati only 25 yards rushing today. That is impressive for the Steelers, who have been gashed this year a few times with the running game. But it seems like since Cam Hayward's been back, Brian, they've really done a nice job against the rush.
We go as far as the defense goes. So last week in Cleveland, we got pushed to the brink and we didn't have a lot of offense. This week, defensively, we're good. Look good. Now, what is it? A second, third, fourth, fifth? I don't know what that quarterback, who that guy was, where they found him, and they found him at the chili place in Cincinnati to play today. But we took care of him, and that we should take care of that full on our dartboard. We should be hitting aces every time. So we did exactly what we needed to do. And we look good. It is exciting, man. It is cool to see Porter want that every week, and he delivers every week. I mean, it's not like he's looking to try to make a name for himself and he's getting beat. He wants to make a name for himself, and he's winning, which is really cool.
The Steelers, I want to get you all of your thoughts on the playoff positioning as we sit right now going into the 4 o'clock hour. Jacksonville Jaguars 8-3, Miami 8-3. Baltimore 8-3 are your top 3 teams in the AFC. Kansas City 7-3, the Browns 7-3, the Steelers now 7-4. They're currently in the 6th spot, and then in the 7th spot right now you have Indianapolis at 6-5, Houston 6-5, and Buffalo all 6-5, kind of battling it out for that last position. But with this win for the Steelers today to go to 7-4, more importantly, guys, their record in conference play after a head-to-head, it goes to conference. They're now 5-3. In the AFC, and that really stacks them up nicely against who's behind them as they're starting to stack up these AFC victories. Bill, any thoughts on the AFC and how it's all going to go down here in the final few weeks? Who do you like?
It's lined up nicely. I mean, as we said when we first jumped on, I mean, the schedule, I believe, is the second easiest the rest of the way. So, yep. If this defense keeps playing like it is and offense can, put a few more points up than they did today, who knows how many more wins they're going to have? I mean, they can definitely reel off several in a row here. So, the division is there.
Bill, is there a chance they can win out, in your opinion? Could they win out the rest of these games?
Oh, there's always a chance, sure. I mean, there is a chance. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not going to be optimistic or pessimistic. I'll be more realistic. It definitely could happen. Do I think it will? I think they're too inconsistent on offense, and we can't go off of one game.
Four wins and we're in.
That much.
4 wins and we're in, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree.
I think 3. I think if they get to 10 wins, they're absolutely in. And when you look at You look. So here's the remaining schedule, and Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll get you to jump in here. By the way, Pittsburgh Steelers. I call you Pittsburgh Steelers or your real name that's popping up on here. What would you like me to do here?
Hey, Pittsburgh Steelers fine.
Hey, and where are you at, Steely? You look like you're in my grandfather's basement. It looks awesome.
In my house in Aliquippa.
Hell yeah, man. Oh, you got the with the quips. Let's go. Yeah.
Very, very, very impressive game room there in the background. Pittsburgh Steelers. Love it, man. It looks great. Good stuff. But your thoughts as well on the AFC playoff positioning here as we get on the stretch.
Yeah, so we've put ourselves at a great advantage already. Like you said, 5-3 in the conference. Definitely in our division, we're 4-1 now. So we can still overtake Baltimore. You know, I know you guys asked if we're going to win out. Not likely, because there's always that chance, even against a bad team, that we have that Tomlin game where we get blown out. Which, honestly, I went to the Houston game in Houston, and I thought that's what that was until I started seeing C.J. Stroud come alive.
Right.
Yeah, Stroud is awesome. Sorry, Bill, but Stroud is awesome.
Yeah, but I have I'm not a fan of Buffalo Bills. Like, I think they're on the downhill. I saw that falling apart the last year and a half or so. But yeah, I think we can make a hard push here.
Let me just have you take the Yinzer hat off for a second, Ed.
Yeah.
If we don't make
He takes it off?
Take it off.
Takes the Yinzer hat off?
You got to take the Yinzer hat off. If we don't make the playoffs, is Tomlin's job in jeopardy?
I think it should be. I think he should. I don't think it'll be in jeopardy that he's going to be out, but I think the heat should be on, absolutely, going into next season.
I mean, look at these games that are left, right?
Yeah, I mean, they got – so here's who they have real quick. We host the Cardinals next week. They're 2-9.
Win.
Patriots are 2-9 the following week on Thursday night.
Win.
You go to Indianapolis. They're 6-5, struggling. You come back home against the Bengals, who today, their season pretty much ended today. If they had any hopes, they had to win today. Their season's now done. They're 5-6. And then you go to Seattle, and I don't care if Seattle is 0-15. The Steelers never play well on the West Coast. They never play well in Seattle. That is definitely going to be a loss, even though Seattle 6-5 is very beatable. And then you got the Ravens at the Ravens 8-3. And who knows, by that point, Baltimore could have the division wrapped up, could be in the number one spot in the AFC, and could be resting guys against the Steelers in that game. Or that game could be played for the division. I'd like to think, I tend to agree with Pittsburgh Steelers. I still think as long as the Steelers don't stumble ultimately and lose more than 2 games down this stretch, that last game, they could be playing for the division championship and potentially one of the top seeds in the AFC, depending on what Kansas City does from here on out. Miami, I am not sold on Miami at all. If anybody's watched the Dolphins play this year, the fact that they're 8-3 right now just doesn't make sense to me. I haven't really dove into their schedule to see, but they have not been an impressive team at all. Baltimore's been impressive. Kansas City's been impressive. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. But I think the Steelers, could be in that conversation. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But that's the remaining schedule. I think they definitely get to 10 wins. They might be able to get to 11. What's your thoughts?
Well, the only thing you got to be careful of is, as in the immortal words of Bill Cowher, misery loves company. So I guess I wouldn't say that any of these guys are going to roll over for us. Everyone's still fighting for a job. So, I mean, Belichick is still the evil genius, right? I mean, I like against the Cardinals next week, but I don't know, man. We could put 4 Cleveland performances in a row and be like, wow, we're back in like the same weird spot. So, I don't know, Steely, what do you think?
We weren't far above the Cleveland performance today.
I agree.
We just had the yards. But, it's a couple of quirky plays today that one way or the other, we could have had 2 more touchdowns if, maybe Jalen breaks a tackle and doesn't fumble. They challenge the Deontay play, and we don't have a tip pass that goes for 30 yards for a first down to lead to their touchdown.
If we lost by a field goal today, how could you not put that Deontay play on the chop? Anyone on the chopping block to be like, where were we to actually try to execute?
That's a huge coaching miscue.
And not to mention, It's not even that. It was on an earlier play, I believe it was on the first or second drive, where he caught the pass and went backwards 5 yards and was tackled for a 7-yard loss.
Yeah,
which Deontay Johnson has done that numerous times throughout his career. It blows my mind when he goes 5 yards backwards to try to go forward on a play. I've not been impressed with Deontay Johnson. I think he is a second or third top receiver, not number one. He can make plays, though. I mean, he has shown the ability to do that, but just too inconsistent.
What about him not participating in that play on that fumble today? I mean, that's been over social media all day. What do you take on that, Ed? I mean, is that laziness? Was he trying to back off? But holy cow, man! I mean, and I always bring up the Pirates at least once. Last season, while we were in September and we were just running off the games, Brian Hayes basically was looking at his fingernails during a triple, and people murdered him and said, "Where were you in the sport? Where are you in the game?" This was a lot worse. They were going to run it back for a touchdown, and Deontay was tying his shoe.
Absolutely, 100%. You got to play the whistle, whether it's a turnover, a play that's for a loss. It shows a lot about character. And if I was the coaches, I would be all over that, and maybe even on the bench for a good portion of the game afterwards. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I love your baseball reference. Bill is a huge baseball guy as well, so you guys could probably take over the show here for the next 30 minutes and talk about the Pirates going into 2024. There probably isn't much to be said, right? Uh-oh.
First of all, that's not true.
I got to get Brian back because he came out blazing at me. I mean, holy cow. I'm going to go back and watch the first 5 minutes of this broadcast. He came out gunning for me. So I got to get him back on his Bucko love.
That's not true. There's a lot going on. Although Jose Oviedo now is out for the year, Bill, you can't be happy with that.
Well, there goes the playoff perspective, right, Bill?
Yeah. It's a rough one. So yeah, you never want to see anybody getting hurt like that. You know.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Well, guys, we're running up against the clock. Before we sign off, let's just go around the horn real quick with some final thoughts on the Steelers' 16-10 victory against the Bengals. They get to 7-4. They will be at home next Sunday at Acrisure Stadium. In fact, the next 4 games, 3 out of the next 4, all at home for the Black and Gold. So that's always you like to see that, especially late in the season. You don't like to finish up at Seattle, at Baltimore, but at least an opportunity for them to stack some wins and really put themselves in that playoff position going into those final couple weeks. We'll start with Bill. Your final thoughts on the Steelers' big win today.
They had to get the win today. They were able to do it. The Canada thing aside, hopefully it's in the past now. That offense keeps improving and defense keeps playing like it plays. And, hey, 1 week at a time, right? Absolutely.
And Pittsburgh Steely, as we were talking a little bit ago about the Steelers and this win here today, was not pretty. You mentioned it, and actually it's a good point. A lot like the Cleveland game last week, right? Except a lot more yards on offense. And I don't know. Again, I'll go back to what I said at the top of the broadcast. I just felt better about the way the offense felt today. It was just a feeling watching the game. Maybe, again, I have my Yinzer blinders on, but it just felt a lot better watching this offense attack downfield.
Yeah, and you have to look at the passing chart from this week as well. So, I just saw it flash on Facebook. It's scattered all across the field. It's the first time we've seen that this year. But something they have to do is they get these 3rd and 12s, 3rd and 15s, and they run a draw play. They are taking no chances to try to get this first down. They just settle for a punt, and they're ready to move on and let their defense get them a win. We have to push the ball and take some chances.
Absolutely. Got to take some shots downfield, and they certainly did that today. Not successful all the times, but at least it gives the defense a look that you're not going to be one-dimensional and just go for a running play or just go with a little screen play. You are going to start to attack downfield. Brian, your final thoughts for today for the Black and Gold, or maybe I should just do this and just turn you off and continue to move on. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. We'll bring it back on for your final thoughts. Go ahead, my friend.
Hey, a win is a win is a win is a win. Last week in Cleveland was not the end of the world. This win in Cincinnati today is not the end of the world. It didn't make or break our season, although I'm happy we're leaving Cincinnati not in dead last. So that's very, very important. And so let's, as Coach T says, let's trust the process. The evil Matt Canada is gone. Now we need Pickett to, Now we need Pickett to throw some dimes now. And we saw some signs of it today. I like the tight end in action. I like the 1-2 punch of Warren and Harris. This will come down to how much, as Steely said, how much leash will we give Pickett to try to make plays? And I still think we have to pull that leash back a little bit. I like today, but I do think that if his goal is to go out there and throw 500 yards, let's see if he can make 40 attempts. I don't think there's a lot of future, and at least this season, with Pickett doing that. So I'd still like to see the brakes tapped with this play of the tight ends, man. It was definitely refreshing to see.
Absolutely. Not a recipe for success ever for the Steelers, even during the Ben days. Whenever you're passing 50 attempts a game and trying to throw for 500 yards.
The game that comes back is against Jacksonville, or one of those ones where we were down by how many, and Roethlisberger threw for a ridiculous amount of yards. I think he had over 50 or 60 attempts. He threw for 600 yards, something crazy. I don't think we'd won a lot of those games where Roethlisberger completed 500 yards passing. They were desperation. So let's just take it day by day. A win is a win. We didn't leave Cincinnati in dead last. We're still in playoff contention. There's hope. We feel good. This is another feel good. I'm thankful for Mike Tomlin, the greatest coach in the NFL.
We have completely turned you from the first few minutes of this broadcast to the end when it was doom and gloom.
No. I just disagreed with that everything was answered. We still have a lot of questions.
4-2-1. 421 total yards of offense today for the Black and Gold. Season high. First time since 2020 that the offense put up those types of numbers. If nothing else, at least it ends that streak. Who knows? Maybe they lose the rest of the games this year, but at least they finally broke that 400-yard total offensive streak today at Cincinnati. Well, that's going to do it for our broadcast, our Steeler post-game show for this week. We want to thank our special guests coming into the broadcast, Bill Powerhouse Hughes.
Thanks, Bill.
As well as, go ahead, Bill. Go ahead. Powerhouse.
Yeah, you're out there, Ed. You're my guy, though. You're my guy. So
you don't go as Powerhouse anymore? That's over?
I do. It's just that I don't hear it as often as I used to. So
right.
It just just makes me laugh, and Ed's always good for that, and I appreciate that. And
well, you guys next to each other before and after of going to a weight room, aren't you?
I'm sorry.
Here, let's do this. Hold on, wait.
What did he say? I didn't hear him before he cut out.
No, we'll bring it back on. Wait a minute. I was going to do it before and after.
Why do I keep getting cut off on this show?
Well, Bill is definitely the after. He said, or you and I look like the before and after in the gym, and I would definitely say that Bill would be the after, and I'm the before. Is that what you're trying to reference as far as look? Yes, absolutely, 100%. So
yeah,
but I'm getting there. I'm making progress. So,
I appreciate.
But thank you, Bill. Appreciate it as always, and also for Pittsburgh Steely as well. Pittsburgh Steely, we can find you on social media.
Yeah, PGH Steely on Facebook, TikTok, and I'm in Gold Law too before every game.
All right, man. Definitely go check you out for the tailgate.
Nice to meet you, man.
You'll be there next week at AccuSure Stadium as the Steelers host the Cardinals 1:00. Really, these next two games, gentlemen, my goodness, you got to win these two, right? The two big games that you should come out on the other side at 9-4. And after everything that's happened so far this year, as Brian said earlier, that's all anybody's going to care about will be that record. So we'll see you next week on the post-game show right here on Oneberg on all of our social media, Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere else where you can find us. Brian, before we log off officially, one last plug for Oneberg this week. Anything good coming up that everybody should be looking for?
Yeah, this Tuesday, 5:00, the second edition of the Incline Show. Our guest is Scott Blasey from the Clarks. Great interview going up and a acoustic performance on the way down. Chef's kiss, the Incline Show. Be there.
Yeah, make sure you check out the Incline Show. Great show here on Oneberg. And this upcoming Tuesday, check out episode number 2. That'll do it for our broadcast. We will see you next week for Steelers post-game show right here on Oneberg.